All right, Shalom, Shalom, Kalalal, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Ha, Kwadash. And double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that I do learn this truth from. To you I say Shalom, and also Shalom unto the hopeful elect. This is the VOJ, the voice of Jacob. My name is Brother Gabar, Ya Allah. And Lord willing, this will be edifying and thought-provoking in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. So this is a very beautiful article, in my opinion, because it reminds me of Ezekiel 38 chapter and also Revelation the 17th chapter, which that pertains to biblical prophecy that is going to manifest in these last days, right? And we are in the last days. You'd be a fool to not think that you're in the last days. Hey, look at what's going on in the earth. But hey, this reminds me of Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 4, 8 through 12, man. Hey, Russia is in that Soviet spirit, and they're definitely going to play a major role in destroying Israel and the United States in these last days. And that's exactly what Ezekiel 38 chapter talks about. Revelation 17, goes into the relationship between the whore and the beast, which the whore represents America, the beast represents the European allies of the United States. So that they mainly come out of Western Europe. Because if you get specific, if you go into the specifics of Revelation the 17th chapter, it states the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads represent the 7 major Edomite kingdoms. And where do they come out of? Or where do they come from? They come from Western Europe, right? So, the relationship between the whore and the beast is not looking too good, and that's due to Donald J. Trump's foreign policy that he's bringing forth, especially as of late, laying claim to, Greenland. The NATO allies, they're not taking too kindly to that, especially Denmark. And they sent their special forces over there to protect that land because they don't want America over there, right? So pretty much, everything that Russia did during the Cold War to destabilize the relationship between America and its European allies, it's now starting to come to pass. But the thing that's different is that it's due to the rocky relationship between the whore and the beast. So that alliance is actually crumbling within, and they're happy because over the years, especially during the Cold War era, Russia, they were trying to use espionage, military pressure, propaganda to take down the United States and its European allies, right? They did all those things, but it didn't work. But now, everything that they wanted is happening now. It's funny, man. But that's all set up through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Alright, so, it's a good little article to read. Now, let me just read this part here. It says, today, thanks to Donald Trump, Putin can revel in that spectacle. He has spent 25 years pursuing the old Soviet policy. Yeah, the old Soviet policy, the USSR spirit, hooks in thy jaw, right? The Soviet way of doing things, right? Which is taking down the United States and its European allies, man. Pretty much that means NATO and the EU, right? Of trying to split the West. Time and again, he has denounced NATO for supposedly trying to encircle or terrorize Russia, as if the very existence of the Atlantic Alliance posed a threat to world peace, and as though the sight of sovereign countries choosing to join its ranks somehow justified his aggression. Now suddenly the fissure Putin has always yearned for is opening before his eyes, right? So yeah, man. That's what they wanted. So I got this precept here. This is Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. You see that? Yeah, and they're known for their military strength, their military might, Russia that is. But the point is, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaw. You know, Russia was known as the USSR before 1991, so that meant they were a communist empire, and they were formidable, man. They are very powerful, right? Hey, man, especially coming out of World War II, post-World War II, hey, Russia was very, very strong after the war still, and they were eating up Europe. And that's why they created that alliance between the United States and the Western Europe, mainly Western Europe. That was to really go up against Gog, man, to keep Gog out, you know, to keep Gog from getting powerful, growing in power. At one point, you know, Russia, they could have taken over Italy at one point. You know, they were very strong, man. Right? So, yeah, they used to be a communist empire and they were very strong. Now, it says the hooks in their jaw. You know, that just simply means they are going to come back in that old Soviet USSR spirit. And Putin is bringing that spirit. You know, we just read it. Today, thanks to Donald Trump, Putin can revel in that spectacle. He has spent 25 years pursuing the old Soviet policy of trying to split the West. You see that? And you know, 2 + 5 is 7, right? 2 + 5, man. So that's perfection, completion, right? So, hey, now we're starting to see what the Soviet Union, you know, its plans, they wanted that alliance to be divided. And now we're starting to see it. After 25 years, 2 + 5 is 7. That's not a coincidence, man. You know, so this is all set up through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai. Our Lord is perfect. You know, Habakkuk 2:3 says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry, wait for it. Right? So, hey, prophecy has an appointment date. Right? It does. It may seem like things are not happening, but things are moving, man. Things are moving. So, yeah. Trump's foreign policy, man, his behavior has caused this dysfunction between the whore and the beast. Because, you know, his diplomatic approach, his style is, it's you know, it's more transactional rather than alliance based. You know, he's prioritizing bilateral deals over multilateral commitments. Think about it, man. It's like, what is NATO gonna do for the United States? What is the EU gonna do for the United States? Why do we gotta pick up the tab? What can you do for me? Why do I have to bring out all this money? You know, why aren't we benefiting? You know, so it's more transactional. What you can buy, what you can do for me. How much money are you going to bring to the table, right? So that's not really an alliance. You know what I mean? You know, his policy is very unpredictable. It's creating a lot of uncertainty among NATO allies about how U.S. security guarantees them. You know, like are they really going to protect us? Are they going to protect our interests? You know, do they really care about us? That's why throughout the years you had top diplomats that came out of the United States, guys like Marco Rubio. They made statements saying that NATO are junior partners, saying that you know, the NATO allies, you guys need to step it up, and you need to take 5% out of your GDP and put it towards defense. Why do we gotta put up all the money for defending you? What the hell, man? Why can't you guys pick up the tab, right? So that's what I'm talking about, how, you know, it's not really alliance based anymore. It's really transactional. And also, going back to the statements that, what's his name? Vladimir Zelensky, the ruler over there in Ukraine, he even came out and made a statement saying that the United States doesn't take NATO seriously. Or I think it was the EU seriously. Yeah, he said the EU. They don't take the EU seriously. I think it was EU or NATO. He made a statement. I did a video on it. He's like, they don't even take us seriously. What's going on? Right? So that's what I mean. You know, his policy is very unpredictable. It creates a lot of uncertainty among NATO allies about U.S. security guarantees and things of that nature. Right? So, you know, he's very dismissive of European partners, which, you know, I believe what he's doing is weakening the cooperation between the nations within that alliance. You know, and especially when it comes to decision making and things of that nature, man. You know, that sucks, man. But it is what it is. That's prophecy. It's a beautiful thing at the same time, right? So we have to remember that. Now let's go to verse 8. Let's jump down here, and it says, after many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years. Thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. That's right, all of Russia's allies. And that starts with the BRICS, right? All the nations that are part of the BRICS. But yeah, after many days in the latter years, that's speaking of the time that we're in, right? And they're going to bring forth their army, and they're going to take over Israel. Right? They're going to take over Israel. They're going to destroy that land. You know, they're going to destroy it. They are going to destroy it. And America will be invaded. Okay, America will be invaded. They will go against Israel and its government and take it down and build it back up. Okay, that's going to happen. Right? They're getting ready to do that. And that's why they're happy about this alliance being torn down from within, because Russia benefits. You know, what's the strategic benefit to Russia, right? A divided West is less capable of coordinating sanctions, military aid, and also diplomatic pressure, right? So NATO deterrence becomes less credible if allies doubt the U.S. commitment. Russia gains greater freedom, you know, to maneuver in Eastern Europe and other contested regions. Man, they get more free roam. They can do whatever they want, right? So if NATO is not strong, that means they can't really go up against Russia, right? You know, so that's why they're going to take over too in the last days. You know, that's why we're going into it ultimately. So when you go into, where do we leave off? Yeah, verse 9 here, it says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Yeah. The bands and, yeah, so like I said, the bands and the many people are the allies of Russia, starting with the BRICS, right? So verse 10, it says, thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, right? So yeah, the Lord is going to put the spirit on Russia to unite like it did in the past, like the old USSR, which is going to cause them to shoot off ICBMs. And that's that evil thought. They're going to destroy the United States and Israel, right? The land of unwalled villages, which that's what it goes into when you go into verse 11 here. It says, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You know, you don't have missile defense systems. That's why you're the land of unwalled villages as well, right? And, you know, America right now is at rest. You know, they're comfortable. They're not in that warrior spirit, really. People are soft like Jello, weak as fuck, right? They think nuclear war will never happen. You know, they're more worried about obtaining alphabet rights. You know, rights or violence against women, as if that's the problem. You know, there's other problems that are gonna come to your shores. You know, bigger problems than your first world problems that you people complain about, right? But that just shows you the mindset of the people over here, starting with the leadership. You know, they don't have that warrior spirit like they used to. They're going to be taken. But yeah, man, Gog is going to do their thing in the last days. And this shows you that, man. This shows you that. This shows you what they want to do, their intentions, right? So, let me get this. This is Revelation chapter 17 verse 15, sorry. Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou saw, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Yeah. And don't forget, man, those nations that are in league with America, NATO and the EU, those nations, man, they're going to shoot their missiles on the United States too, because they actually hate the whore. And Donald Trump's foreign policy that he's bringing forth is causing the beast to hate the whore, man. Like, god damn. So they're not going to have a problem destroying America too. Verse 17, for the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Yeah, there you go. The woman is America, man. Yeah, and the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. It's through the Lord's will. He sets up kingdoms to rule for a period of time, and he's one that sets them up to fall. And that is America. America was set up to rule for a period of time, and now we're in the time of their downfall. And that's just how the Lord set it up. Hey, that's 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that falleth. And who's controlling the world of Esau? Okay, who's the face of that? America, man. And who sits behind America? The elites. All right, so you're set up to fall. We are at the end of your world, okay, and this shows that we're at the end, man. All right. So, anyways, that's all that I have here. I hope this was edifying. I don't want to make this too long. So, with that, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. And double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone of GMS that you learned this truth from. Shalom. Shalom unto the hopeful elect. This is the VOJ, the voice of Jacob. Kwame Ashala Baba Bal Shalom.